That holy person who enters the fourth mode of life, giving pledges of assurance unto all creatures, succeeding in earning many regions of blazing effulgence hereafter, and ultimately attains to the infinite. Of excellent disposition and conduct, with sins all washed off, the person who is conversant with his own self never desires to do any act for either this or the other world, free from wrath and from error, without anxiety and without friendship. Such a person lives in this world like one totally uninterested in its concerns. Okay, it says that regenerate person who enters the fourth mode of life. Now, let's break that down. Fourth mode of life in the Eastern spiritual systems was always considered the spiritual, or the fourth mode of life. There's four different levels of life. There's the brahmacharya, which means basically the celibate student. Two is the householder, those who basically are more about their family, about building a family, marriage, and so on. Basically, live an ordinary life. The third mode of life is the forest dweller. That's basically when people who live the household of life go and retire to the forest and seek spiritual counseling, seek spiritual practices, seek spiritual development. The fourth mode of life, this is what's important. The fourth mode of life is those who renounce from the first mode of life, the first step of life. Brahmacharya, a celibate student, goes straight to ascetic, the ascetic mode of life, and that's called sannyasa or sadhana. Sannyasa basically means the holy path, the spiritual path, the path of seeking God, basically seeking your own self, seeking the truth. That is the ascetic or renunciate path, the fourth mode of life. So it says that holy person who enters the fourth mode of life, called sannyasa or the spiritual path, giving pledges of assurance unto all creatures, basically making assurance to all beings, humans, animals, and the like. Why? Because you don't eat meat, you don't slaughter animals, you don't wage war, meaning the vow of what? Non-violence. Very key. It says giving pledges, vows of assurance unto all creatures. So in that sense, the holy man does not removes the fear from humans of him and animals of him by those vows. The vows of non-violence, the vow of vegan or veganism or vegetarianism. But it says succeeds, this holy man succeeds in earning many regions of a blazing effulgence hereafter. Uh, Earning many regions of blazing effulgence, because these realms are what? Blazing of light, right? They're basically hydrogen, helium, these different gases in the spiritual world. When we talk about the spiritual world, we basically are talking about the cosmos or the Milky Way, so on, the different constellations, the stars. These are your cherubim, your angels, your rishis. They have many names, but that's the realms for which you go when you're able to get past the weight of the heart and the burden of the physical world. That's the path of the holy man, the path of sannyasa. The other three modes of life are basically to sustain and perpetuate and maintain this physical world. But the fourth mode is the highest and the most spiritual, to be able to get you to the spiritual world and get spiritual liberation. It says, succeeds in earning many regions of blazing effulgence hereafter. Now, many regions. The many regions are basically Maha, Jhana, Tapa, and Satyaloka. These basically represent the Anahata chakra, the Vishuddha, the Ajna, and the Sahasrara chakra, the thousand petal lotus chakra. Now, these realms are different regions inside of your body, which correspond to the heavens or to the whole physical world, the whole cosmos. And that is the mystery. The highest realms, as they fell into lower realms, those realms folded inside of each other in succeeding order. So the lowest realm is filled with all of the highest realms, but the highest realm stands on its own. See, and you are the embodiment. You are the cup, the can, the pot that all of these realms are put inside of. As reality began to evolve and manifest from one stage to the next, you are the finished product. You are the vessel, the bowl that everything, the essence is poured into. And those beings of light, those realms of light, those heavenly states, those dimensions are regions considered in mythology heaven or the seven heavens, right? That corresponds as above, so below to your seven chakras, your seven glands inside of your body. So it says the holy man, by taking on these vows, is able to get into the regions of blatant effulgence in the hereafter, and ultimately attains to the infinite, not the finite, which is the human body, the physical world, everyone that you know, your family, your friends, your mate, your children, all of that is what finite. You are able to inherit the infinite, the world, the primordial world that never decays, it's immortal. That's your own true self. That is the satya, which means truth or the reality. Right now, you're in a dream. You're asleep. You wake up to your infinite what consciousness. That's what you wake up to. Some of us at the point of death, and some of us can awaken to it while we're still alive. How you do that, though, I'll say this: is through the path of sannyasa, that fourth path that we just mentioned before. It says of excellent disposition and conduct, with sins all washed off, the person who is conversant with his own self never desires to do any act. Very key. The person who's conversant with his own self, meaning if you're able to contact and have a relationship, epiphany, a realization of their true embodied soul. It says the person who is conversant with his own self never desires to do any act. Why? Because once you get the self, the soul, which is pure, which is immortal, trapped into acts or karma, good or bad, you have to pay the debt or you have to pay the repercussions for it. And it's a cycle. You see, it's a debt. It's a act and react. All the lower realms are the realms of activity. The realms, especially the root all the way down to the hellish realms called the Patala realms. These realms are the realms of activity, where those who are most busy, those who claim to be spiritual but yet fill their lives with activities, work, leisure, fun, hustling, all of these different things that people occupy their time with. You're literally distracting yourself from the truth that's always waiting there, which is really a state that is in the void in the now. And it's not with the busyness of all your distractions. You're really going nowhere. And those acts lead you outside of yourself, your true self. So, very key, it says, who is conversing with his own self never desires to do any act for either this or the other world. So, when it speaks about those other worlds, it's speaking about the worlds of Buvar, these other six major worlds, even seven major worlds, these other six major worlds, they are filled up with activities. Not just the root chakra, well, not just the lowest heaven or the lowest world, but all of the six realms are filled with activities. And we can break down what those activities are. They're simultaneous with our everyday lives as humans, but I'll move forward and break that down in the future. It says, and without friendship, such a person lives in this world like one totally uninterested in his concerns. So remember the concept, it says, be in the world but not of the world. But that's basically the same sentiment. But it says, without friendship, such a person lives in this world like one totally uninterested in his concerns. So when it says without friendship, is that how you get to the heavenly world? So you mean to tell me you have to renounce friendship? Dealing with friendship, that's the topic we're dealing with right now. That's the solar plexus, and it's dealing with social positioning, social influence, companionship, so on. Social validation, very important. So it says, without friendship, such a person lives in this world like one totally uninterested in his concerns. You have to understand, it sounds very harsh and it sounds very hard to grasp. Are you telling me that you have to renounce all of your friends and have no companionship, basically be isolated, be alone to be able to get spiritually on a next level or be able to spiritually develop or go into these spiritual states? Well, yes. It doesn't mean friendship in the context of absolutely. There's many other holy texts that quote, you have to be able to, on your spiritual path, find holy company. Very key concept, find holy company. And your holy company will be able to keep you on the spiritual path. So that means basically not being around general humans or general companions based on what's relevant in society, but being around spiritual people or spiritual individuals, people who are spiritually inclined, or even people who are intellectually involved or who have intellectual perceptions. So the friendship aspect is dealing with society because society has a standard. Society is like a football game. There's no point in befriending a football player when you're not in a football game. Why? Because they'll only be concerned with scoring touchdowns. They'll only be concerned with who's winning and who's losing. They'll only be concerned with many different expectations and standards of the world being the football field. So you have to be able to renounce peers as in the sense of football players. You have to renounce the team. But for all of those who leave the football field and leave the mundane world, leave that distraction alone. There's another concept of dealing with holy company, right? Spiritual advisors, spiritual peers. That's a different story. But yes, you have to get rid of friendship. Friendship will hold you back. Yeah, your friends that are tied in this material world with the mundane things in society, they will hold you to a certain standard. When it comes to wealth, they'll try to hold you to how much money you have. They always try to keep that standard, just like a football game. Are you scoring touchdowns? Are you what's your stats? What's your data? They'll keep you trapped in companionship in the world, which means keep you as a householder and won't be able to get you to the fourth mode of life. Remember, we dealt with that fourth mode of life. Three, they'll try to always make demands on you and obligate you to deal with the social positioning and make you seek social validation, peer pressure. But that will keep you away from the spiritual path, from the spiritual enlightenment, the spiritual liberation that is easily available to you if you surround yourself by holy company or you just isolate yourself and focus. And yes, that spiritual world, even though all of humans are avoiding it, whether they're your friends, family, or society as a whole, all of them are avoiding it every day, is right within our grasp. It's always been there. We just avoid it because of these institutions like school, the media, our work, and our family life, and our social life. That is what is the distraction. We move from one fad to the next fad to the next fad, but we never stick with what is the most deepest questions about right now in the moment in life. And remember, none of these people who are distracted have time. Their time is ticking. And there's a lot of humans that come into this world. They spend all 80 or something years that they have on this planet on vanity and ignorance and nothing spiritual. So when they die, they have to reincarnate through their children or through some relatives. Hope you understand. There's a difference between socializing, being in the social world, and calling it being spiritual or spirituality. Basically, it's just people gathering to socialize. That's what spirituality basically has become: a accessory for one's personality to socialize. Well, a real holy man, a real spiritual man, a spiritual woman renounces that society, friendship, companionship, and from all of the things that society has as standards that will keep you and distract you from your spiritual work, your spiritual development. But it says freed from wrath and from error. Now, a very key thing I wanted to break down is that the higher three worlds are the worlds that I previously dealt with that mention the regions of blazing effulgence. Those regions of blazing effulgence, the heavenly realms, are the first three realms. But it says free from wrath. Wrath is the heart chakra. Free from what? Wrath. And from error, meaning when you get to the heart chakra, you lose all of the mistakes and all of the pitfalls and all of the obstacles of the lower three realms, all of the illusions and so on. You're able to see more clearly, more pure. It says, and from error without anxiety, heart chakra, anxiety. The highest teachings, one of the highest teachings of the Eastern systems and the African system is no fear, no fear. So it says without anxiety, and that will be the solar plexus and heart chakra. You have to even get higher than those realms, the realms of companionship and friendship. Remember, wrath is the heart chakra, friendship is the solar plexus, and the realm of desire. Remember, it says one own self never desires to do any act. Desire is the sacral plexus, and activity or action is the root chakra. So now you see we're dealing with all of these different levels of all of these levels of activity, all of these levels of consciousness that correspond to the heavenly states, the seven lokas or the seven worlds. Rarely do you have people who are able to escape all of the things that we went through, all of these levels that we went through, all of these distractions, all these obstacles, including friendship, which is the desire for companionship, the desire for social validation. It's rare that they are able to overcome that, renounce that, and make it to these higher worlds. And before death and then after death, enter into these spiritual worlds. And so with that, I'll break it down further in the future. But understand the two different distinct ideas: the world and society, socializing, and the other, the spiritual world, asceticism, renunciation, and freeing your soul, liberating your soul, and getting to what? The heavenly states, or to heaven.